Hello, and welcome to another edition of A Reader's Paradise. Say, if you like the interviews that you are listening to, and if you like the literary performances that are being done for you, please take a moment and hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and a review. Also, leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Your ratings and reviews help others to find the show. Speaking of finding the show, I have to give out a big thank you to the following cities and countries that have downloaded this show. And this is in no particular order. So I want to say thank you to the listeners in the following areas around the globe: Hong Kong, Singapore, Russia, Colombia, South America, Argentina, South America, Australia, Finland, Hungary, Germany, France, Ireland, England, the Philippines, Bulgaria, Italy, Canada, Nigeria, and South Africa. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to these interviews and literary performances. So with that said, folks, we have someone who is very, very special on this podcast. But before I get to her, I have one more announcement I want to make. Please stay tuned at the end of this podcast to listen to the audio drama Lennie Gray. It's a wonderful work of historical fiction that takes place in the American South between the years 1918 and 1951, and it follows a family through 30 years. So you will want to you will want to stick around so that you can hear an episode of Lennie Gray, and then after you hear the first episode, hop on over there and listen to the show. Now, with that being said, I have a very, very special author for you, and let me read a little bit of her bio for you. And here's how her bio reads. Just to share a little information about myself, I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. I am a proud graduate of William M. Raines High School, and I earned a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration from Jacksonville University. Also, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. I got married 47 years ago to my high school sweetheart, Gerald, and we have two sons, Gerald Jr. and Brandon. I still proudly wear the Going Steady ring Gerald gave to me at 15. A few years ago, I retired after working 37 years in management for a major insurance company, and now I'm writing full-time and enjoying every minute of it. I began my writing career in the 8th grade at Northwestern Junior High School when I would handwrite my stories for fellow classmates to read. I'm proud to say some of those same classmates are still Brenda Jackson readers today. I have published more than 125 novels and novellas. Additionally, I have over 15 million books in print. My professional writing career began in 1994 when I signed on with Kensington Arabesque. My first book, Tonight and Forever, became a huge success, introducing the Medeiros family. Since then, I've introduced the Nets, the Westmorlands, the Montgomerys, the Masters, the Savoys, the Steeles, and the Grangers, just to name a few. Now, with an introduction like that, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to welcome Brenda Jackson to the show. Brenda, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Thank you, Earl, for inviting me. Hello, everyone.
Oh, it's so good to hear you. It's so good to see you, or no, I can't see you, but it's so good to hear you and reconnect with you. Because the last time we were together, we were on a Walmart tour. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was back in 19...
Oh, no, not 19.
Early 2000, or was it 1990? The end of 1990.
Oh, I think it was 2000. Because, back in 1990 something, I was only 8 years old.
Oh, okay. I got you. Believe it. So you're right. I think it was back in the early 2000s. And
yes.
We had a wonderful time.
Yes. We had an absolutely fabulous time on that national book tour where we toured around Walmarts around the country. And we just had a blast with fans who came out to sign books and meet the writers. It was a blast. I mean, we signed so many bags that said Soul Expressions Bus Tour. We were signing bags.
You are right. We sure did.
Yeah,
sure did.
And I still have those bags. And also we got to meet actor Billy D. Williams on that bus tour.
Yes, I remember that. He was my idol. I remember watching him in Lady Sings the Blues, Mahogany, and those shows, and I was in awe of him.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Oh yeah, because I know in my household, growing up, he was the man.
Yes.
It was like, people would just go, "Oh, Billy. Oh yeah, he was the man." So kudos for him. So Brenda, we are here to talk about you and your work and your wonderful success and your rise. I mean, you have a number of firsts in your bio that I did not read. But tell us what one of those firsts for you are as an African American woman.
Wow. As an African American woman, I was the first in the romance genre to make the New York Times and the USA Today bestsellers list. Those were kudos for me because when I set out to write, I only wanted to entertain my readers with my writing. My day job, which was in business, corporate America, was my heart. I loved corporate America. And I decided, writing is a way to save money and make money to send my kids to college. I had two sons that I knew would be in college at the same time. So for me to take that and take a book that I've written that for my imagination and to make USA Today and New York Times and be the first African American woman to do that was very inspiring for me, and I was hoping that it was inspiring for all the authors because that gave them hope that enough people could read your books and would read your books to put you on a major list like that. And I was also the first African American to write for Harlequin Silhouette Desire line of books introducing the Westmoreland family. So that was another first for me. And then, of course, I was the first African American to win the Nora Roberts Lifetime Achievement Award, and that was extra special for me in 2012 when I won that award, mainly because Nora Roberts was my idol. If you like romance, you know Nora Roberts. And I just wanted to found myself, like her as far as writing as many books as I could write like Nora and all of that. Of course, I haven't caught up with Nora's in the 200s, and I'm just at 100. But she inspired me to try.
Yes. Now that is funny because I'm a Nora Roberts fan, and I've read a number of Nora Roberts books. And in fact, here's something you may not know about me. When I was a young man, for about 5 years, I worked at a public library. And,
okay.
And at the time, I was a really interesting character because I was this 20-year-old, kid, this 20-year-old African American kid working at a library reading books, and I did not fit the mold that society said I should have, that American society said I should have fit in. And I specifically remember walking through the library aisles looking for books to read. And some of the first books that I really got into were romance books. Because I'm a young man, I'm at a dating age, and I really want to learn how to woo women or understand the whole romance thing because, guys aren't taught how to be romantic.
Right.
At least the last time I checked, that's something we sort of stumble into and try to figure out along the way. And so I remember because working at the library, it wasn't shunned upon if you were caught reading. As a matter of fact, they encouraged it. And I remember there were times when it was a little slow and patrons weren't coming in that I would get lost. I mean, my nose would be so deep in a romance book, and they're usually historical romances that took place in faraway times and distances. And that really influenced some of my writing when it came down to like creating the relationships in my characters between men and women. So let me ask you this question. When you decided to write romance, why did you select that genre?
Oh, gosh, I selected that genre because I'm a romantic at heart. Just my history. When I say my history, I met this young man when I was 14 years old, and I fell in love. I fell in love with him, and I grew up on happily ever after books, Cinderella, Snow White, and the Seven Dwarfs, and the ending was, and they lived happily ever after. Those were the type of stories I wanted to read where they had a happy ending, relationships, fall in love, a happy ending. Then my own relationship, I dated a guy through school, all through school. He was 2 years older than I, and again, like you indicated in my intro, I got a going steady ring from him at 15, and so we dated. We graduated. He graduated 2 years before I did, and a year after I graduated from school, parents had to sign for you to get married, and our parents signed for us to get married with stipulations. And those stipulations, we will sign for you to get married because you're 19. Gerald was 21, so his mother didn't have to sign for him. But what we required, Gerald, is that Brenda finish college. There will be no children for the first 5 years. I mean, they were giving us these rules that before y'all have your first child, y'all will be put in a house. So what they were doing was looking out for our future. And my mom always said, get to know the two of you before there become the three of you. And we promised, yeah, we're going to do all that. And we did. And we got a chance to build a strong relationship. Those 7 years, we waited 7 years before we had any kids. We became the best of friends. We would go places. And during that time, a lot of our friends that got married the same time we did, they were getting divorced already. And we were looking and like, what can we do so we won't ever be a statistic? Because we're in this thing together. We are a team. And when the pastor said, for better, for worse, richer, for poor, we meant that. So we decided that we were going to do everything in our power to keep our relationship fresh, to do things together, even when we start having kids, to make sure that we always had time for each other. So when I write my books, I put all the things that Gerald, and we were together for 47 years before he passed away of cancer in 2013. So when I write my books, I remember I give my couple some type of relationship challenge. But then based on how Gerald and I grew, then I like writing to get them back together because all my books have happy endings. I don't write a book unless I have a happy ending because I think that no matter what the problem is, it can get worked out with my couples, yes.
Now, that's a great thing. You just dropped a huge nugget of wisdom right there when you say, you're going to work it out. So that requires two very emotionally intelligent individuals who understand not only each other but themselves, but also are willing to tackle a complex issue. And that's a skill. That is a life skill that maybe perhaps a lot of people may not realize they need when they go into a marriage. You can't go into a marriage and if you have a disagreement, you decide to shame the other individual or bring a third party into the situation or whatever the case may be. But I think one of the things that people have to understand when you're dealing with matters of the heart and matters of relationship and matters of marriage, that you have to really know how to have fierce conversations without degrading the other person.
You have to do that, and you have to know when to compromise. You have to know when to compromise, and you have to understand the other's feelings. And you got to understand that every day things not going to go your way. I was brought up because of my parents to work together. Well, I got married in 71. During the 70s, they didn't count the woman. When I bought my first house, when Gerald and I bought our first house, it had to be in his name. He could add my name if he wanted to, but it had to be based on his salary. Why? Because so you could get pregnant, you may never go back to work. So unless his income, he could afford this house on his income, you don't count, basically. And that's how it was in the 70s. Yes, that's how it was in the 70s. So one thing was on biblical I got from the Bible, because I was a Sunday school teacher. I was Gerald's helpmate, and I wanted to be that. He was like, I wanted him to feel like he was the one that God put on earth for me to basically take care of me. But that didn't mean that I wasn't going to work. It meant that if we wanted something, he had to accept that I was his mate and I was his workmate. And that if I brought him advice, it was going to be for the best of us, and that for him to be open to that advice, because he couldn't do it all by himself, and I didn't want him to do it all by himself. I wanted to be there to help him. And we believed in that. And it drove our kids, when we started having kids, crazy, because they would always say, you and Dad is a team. We can't play y'all against each other. I'm like, no, not at all. We did not play that, So it drove them crazy, but it ended up being, and we were two different people. I was basically the more outgoing one. Gerald was the one, when I'm not going to say he wasn't friendly, but he was very reserved. So it shows opposite attracts. But he let me be me, and he gave me encouragement to write and encouragement for anything when I needed it. And I, in turn, built him up. I told him, you're the man. You are the man. Because male, especially black males, that was during the time they needed that. They needed that type of encouragement, and for their wives, their woman, to believe in them. And I believed in him.
Yeah, because, historically, when we look at that historically, what, was done to the black family, not only through chattel slavery, but through another 100 years of segregation and Jim Crow, and the narratives that were put out about black men that were just absolutely false, like they don't take care of their families, they can't be providers, all of those negative sort of stereotypes that were sold to the general society at large, had an impact on the psyche of not only the nation, but the psyche of men, particularly black men. But the interesting thing is that that's not necessarily true, because I think back during chattel slavery, people still got married. Men and women still got married, even when they were in bondage. Even when they were, even at the threat of being killed, they would get married secretly. So we have always believed in our love for each other, even during the most difficult, horrible circumstances. We still believed in the strength of that unity, of that oneness, or that togetherness. And so, I'm glad you said that, because I think that, perhaps people, not only here in the United States, but abroad, who maybe, just entering relationships, or just entering the dating life, or maybe have been in the dating life or married life for a while and may be struggling, have to understand, some of these, very, very important principles of being able to communicate, because not everyone is born with great communication skills. And so when you put your characters together, you like to put together characters that are human but very complex.
Human, complex, and not perfect. And most of my guys don't think they're ready to settle down, that there's no woman out there, that they are convinced they like the ways of a single guy. They love the way that they don't need a woman to be whole. And I'll let them know that's true to a certain extent, but that A woman, again, is not only your bed mate, she's your soulmate. And together, if y'all are working together, that y'all can have more, that y'all can provide. Y'all can be the best of friends. And me and my husband would always tell people, we are the best of friends. We grew up together. And we were the best friends.
Yeah. And you just dropped another huge one. And if I can get you to expound upon it a little bit, the difference between bedmate and soulmate, because I think the way our society has took human intimacy and perverted it, people forget that there's more to being with someone than just being a bedmate. So can you talk about, what exactly a soulmate is and what that looks like, what that feels like? And, is there a character or two characters in one of your books or in your most recent one that we're going to talk about that exemplify that?
Gosh, yes. To me, a soulmate is someone that and like I was telling you, I knew at an early age and that Gerald was my soulmate. I just knew it. The Lord laid it on my heart that y'all going to go through trials, tribulations, but in the end, y'all going to be together because it was meant for you to be together. That there's not going to be a problem the two of you cannot work out. You're going to have to believe in each other, and that's going to be what not only draw you together, but what keep you together. A soulmate where you could sit and you can talk about things you are pleased with, things you are not pleased with that person, and not hold it in and be able to communicate. Sometimes it's not easy. But Gerald and I always said that we did not want to go, we would have earned your worth. You're human. You're not going to always think the same way. You're not going to always agree on things. But we never wanted to close our eyes at night mad at each other. Because one of us may not never wake up. And one thing you got to remember, when that person is gone, they're gone. You could say, I'm sorry, all you want. They're gone. So we would always talk about them. We would sit, and I put this in one of my books. When it was something that really bothered us, we would sit in the middle of the bed, and we said, we're on an island. And anything off the bed is waters with sharks and all kind of craziness in that water, which means that now we're forced on this island with just the two of us to sit and talk about what got us mad, what got us and then we should be able, when we finish here, we should be able to swim the shore from off this island to another island together. And that's how we dealt with a lot of our issues. We would sit on the bed and say, okay, I really didn't like the way you said what you said to me, and why? Why didn't you like it? Well, your voice was kind of high or whatever. And we talked about it. And so a lot of people don't talk. They quick to run home to mama, quick to say, I'm gone. Pack up your clothes, go to a hotel. I wasn't going anywhere. And we made that pretty much understanding early in our marriage. We're not going anywhere. We are here in it together. If we had to be mad for a couple of hours, that's fine. We're going to stay. A bed mate is someone you just enjoy sleeping with. Now, my characters in my book, that's making love is a very important part of any relationship. Otherwise, the Lord would not have included into a relationship. Mm-hmm. But it's not the only part of the relationship. It's like the icing on the cake. And when you come together, you're not doing, that's why I always say there's a difference between having sex and making love. When you make love, you're making love. When you're having sex, you're just out there for gratification. And there is a difference.
A huge difference.
A huge difference.
And huge difference in that. And again, I think that also comes down to people having, all sorts of, personal development, introspective work they've done. and understanding of themselves and understanding the difference between that. And, even that requires a person to really want to be curious about, those differences. So, thank you for sharing that part of the journey, of your journey with us and your personal story, with your husband. Now, let me ask you this. Why do you think romance is such an important literary genre?
Everybody wants to believe that love is everlasting, which I believe it is. Everyone wants to believe that there is someone out there. No one wants to, I don't think, most people don't want to grow old by themselves. They want to live a lifetime feeling loved, knowing there's somebody out there they can trust, they can talk to, they can have faith in, that's going to enjoy doing some of the same thing that they enjoy doing. And so when people sometimes, whether they have it in their lives or they don't have it, they're going to want to read about it in somebody else's life. And that's where the romance books come into being, because you take a guy and a girl who meet, and they don't just fall in love like that. It takes a series of events. Somebody's fighting it. Somebody's not. Somebody's thinking we should never get married. Somebody's thinking we should. Somebody's thinking, oh, I just like you for the sex part. And then they find out in growing together that it's something else there. There's a bond between us that's bigger than anything that we ever thought possible. And that is love.
Yeah, and especially when you find that someone that you have commonality of experience or common interests that you share.
Right.
I think, if, I think the common interest part where you can do things together, that you enjoy each other's company,
right.
That, and I like to say that, for me, like part of romance is having two people with a open and growth mindset and not a fixed and stagnant one. The one that doesn't grow, right. One that doesn't, move, that it gets curious that, I'm just as curious about you when I met you at 20. And now that we're, 50, 67, I still have that curiosity about you, and, you still,
right.
When you think about them, you smile. I once heard Maya Angelou in an interview with Oprah. I think she was doing this with. And she said something like, I'm paraphrasing the quote, and she says, people may not remember what you did for them. What they will remember is how you made them feel. And so,
yes.
And so she says, if somebody mentions your name and they go, oh, hell, here they come. Well, that's not a good thing, but, if someone mentions your name and the smile comes to their face and you see them light up from the inside, that's important. And so when you find a mate, you don't want to be around having disparaging remarks about your mate. You want to light up, even in your darkest of days or your
right.
darkest of times. You want to know that, this one person loves me, because you said that, and I thought that was very important. Everybody wants to be loved, you said. And I think that's true.
Right.
Everybody needs to know that there's somebody who loves them no matter what.
Right. A lot of my readers, they say, you know what, I want a Madaris man, that I've been in a rotten relationship, but your book gives me hope that there is somebody out there for me. And I say, and keep that hope. Don't settle. Mm-hmm. Don't settle. Believe that there's somebody out there who's going to just be your all in all, that was meant for you. I truly believe that.
Yeah. Okay. Woo, I'm feeling like I'm having church up in here. Okay. I have another writer's question for you.
Okay.
If you could travel back in time, is there a writer you would love to meet and have coffee with? Who would that writer be and why?
Oh, gosh, Kathleen Whitworth. She was a historical writer. And I, like you, basically love reading historical books. And I loved reading historical romance books. And Kathleen Whitworth wrote at a time when romance novels were taboo. And she wrote them in such a way they just flowed like prose. They were just wonderful. And they were some of the best love stories. And one, Shanna, I think I could read that book at least once a year, and it's like a 600-page love story. But it gives me an understanding of what one man will do. It's like a transformation, because Shanna was a very spoiled, rich girl, and Rourke, she thought, was just a lowly servant. And in the end, you found out that he was just as rich as she was. But she didn't find that out until the end. It took her the transformation that Shanna, would never fall in love with the lowly servant, but she did. And it's just a beautiful love story and all its complexity. And so I would want to have tea with Kathleen Woodowitz to find out what was your thought process when you not only wrote Shanna, but a lot of her other books that she wrote. And I think I've read all of them, and I named my youngest son, after a hero from one of her books. So, yes. So,
okay.
Shanna is one, yeah. Shanna is one, and just a lot of her books. So, I think I would love to have tea. And I think she died in the early 2000s.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So, she would be someone that I would want to have tea with.
Yeah, I know for me, I have two. One would be Zora Neale Hurston for me. I love Zora. And then Phyllis Wheatley. If I could go back in time and talk to Phyllis Wheatley and just to understand, what that was like for her to live in that particular time and break and defy what was expected of her as a captive brought over from Africa as a little girl who learned not only English but learned Latin and was able to write and had the respect of the first president of the United States, George Washington. I mean, I think I think and how did society, culture, and things at that time influence your perspective on, the world and, the world that you were living in. So, I would love to, be able to go and, just sit and I'm just going to listen to you. That's all, if she was holding a class, I would just be sitting there listening attentively because I would just soak up everything. Wow. That her or Zora, may have had to share. I would have just soaked it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So Brenda, now we're going to switch gears. And not only are you a New York Times and USA Today, best-selling author, but you have also taken your work and you are moving it over into film. And you have one of your books that is being turned into a film or has been turned into a film called The Brother's Honor. And I believe it's a series of books. And is it going to be also a series of movies? Do I have that correct?
Yes, there's going to be 3 movies. It's a series of movies. So A Brother's Honor is the first one. A Man's Promise is book 2, and A Lover's Vow is book 3. On Passion Flick, which is a streaming service like Netflix, they're bringing all 3 movies to streaming devices, like on your television, if you got a smart TV, on your computers, on your smartphone. So you will be able to get these movies and watch them the same way you would watch Netflix. It's a streaming service, and it's a subscription like Netflix. They're doing original movies based on novels by New York Times best-selling authors, and I was pleased to be one of the authors they selected, and the book was a series about 3 brothers. So they didn't just say, well, we want that brother. They read the series and say, we need all 3, because it's a mystery that runs through all 3 books that isn't solved until the 3rd book. So they felt like, oh, no, in that case, we need to do all three. And they're doing all three, and I'm pleased with that. But A Brother's Honor is the first one, and it's coming out in September.
Wow. And tell us some of the actors who are playing some of your characters in the book.
Oh, gosh. My lead character in A Brother's Honor, the first and oldest brother, Jace Granger, because it's about the Granger family. And the guy is Jeremy Baptiste. Wonderful, wonderful actor. He pulled off Jace Granger perfectly. And then in book 2, A Man's Promise, Caden Granger, the guy is Michael Marcel. And in book 3, Dalton Granger, the guy is Robert Christopher Riley. And what I liked about those three guys were they were all on set together because each one of them, they're in each other's books. So each one got signed on for all three books. We already filmed book 1, A Brother's Honor. That was filmed in June, and it will be airing or streaming in September. Book 2, we're filming in December, Man's Promise, and it will be aired in the spring. And book 3, Dalton Granger book, will be filmed in late spring, and it will be screened over the summer. So it was important for them to have that camaraderie, just like real brothers. And they nailed it to the T. They were able to not only read the script, but it's required they read the book. Because, again, these are movies based on romance books. And it's important that not only the cast, the actors and actresses, but even the people behind the cameras understand what's going on. And it's different because usually all they have to rely on is the script. The producer and the director and the CEO of Passion Flick, Tosca Musk, who's the sister of Elon Musk of the Tesla car Musk family, she knew it was important that they read the book. And and then I'm there on set doing the filming to make sure that it's by the book. So when you read the book, then you know how Hollywood does. Sometimes you read a book, then when you see it, you're like, wait a minute, this is not like the book.
This is not like the book, yeah.
Yeah, this is like the book. Of course, there are challenges because you're taking a 400-page book and making it into a 2-hour movie. So that means that I get to select what scenes that I want in the book, and I go to my readers, what scenes you got to see that you read in the book. One thing you hate is to read a good book and you don't see that scene when it brought the television onto the movies. So my readers, I think, going to be pleased with the outcome.
Right. Wow, that is just so wonderful and so exciting to hear. I'm so happy for you. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. This is a question. Is there a cameo of you in any of the films?
Oh, yes. They want the authors to appear in each one of their movies. Now, I appeared in book 1. So chances are, since my character was established in book 1, unless I look different, it'll look strange for me because they'll say, okay, who is this lady here in each one of the books? Because I don't have no specific role. In book 1, I am at the trial of the father. And the story is the father goes to jail for killing his wife, leaving his 3 young sons behind to be taken care of by the grandfather. And this is a very well-to-do black family that lived in Charlottesville, Virginia, that owned this major corporation, Granger Aeronautics. And so I'm at that trial, which is already 15 years before the book takes place. Because when the book opened up, the young men, his 3 sons, they're grown now. They're coming back to help take over the company because their grandfather is dying and to get their father out of prison because they know he did not kill their mother. Yeah. But the real murderer is out there, and he doesn't want his identity revealed. So now the brothers place themselves in danger. But you don't find out until who the actual killer is until book 3.
What was it like for you to actually see your creativity come to life? Was that like a surreal moment for you?
It was a surreal moment because what they had to do, the dialogue and the script had to be my words. It could not get changed unless the director came to me and say, could we change it to this? Could we tweak it to this? So the majority of the time I was listening to what I wrote. They basically were talking in conversation to exact conversation that took place from the book that I wrote. I'm like, I wrote that? My goodness. Yeah. And it was one scene, gosh, where one of the brothers, he felt like his girlfriend had betrayed him. And the scene, he told her, I don't ever want to see you again or whatever. And everybody turned around when that scene was over and they said, that's a good take. Everybody turned to me and said, boy, that was so brutal. Because they knew I wrote it. They say, how could you have him? Because he's saying what he feels. In book 2, he finds out he's made a mistake, so now he got to eat crow to try to get the girl back because he believes what he thought he saw or what he thought someone wanted him to see. But at that moment, he was based on emotions that he was feeling. And Michael Marcel, who plays Caden Granger, he put everything in there. He basically said it like I expected Kate to say it. Shiloh, the young lady that played Shiloh, Jasmine Johnson, she reacted like I expected her to react. And everybody at the end looked at me like I expected them to look at me like, wow, that's unreal. I had camera guys in a scene where the grandfather passes away, he dies. They were actually wiping their eyes. So the actors, I have to give them credit for bringing out the characters that I wrote and putting life to the words that I wrote. So I may have written the words, but it was the characters. It was the actors and actresses that brought it to life.
Wow. Well, I have one more question, Brenda, because we are at 45 minutes.
Okay.
So we got to start winding it down. But let me ask you this writer's question. I know for me, when I often write, when I get into something called flow, where I am not myself, I have actually become the characters that I am creating. I become very animated when I get into that point. I sound like the characters. I do body movements like the characters, and it's like I'm channeling something greater than me that's coming through me. I'm just a vehicle that's receiving these situations, these moments, this story that, the universe has put out there for me. And I want to ask you, as a writer, have you ever experienced anything like that where you felt like you felt all of the emotions, all of the complexities of all of your characters during the writing process?
Yes. And it's the one book in particular. It's called Ties That Bind. It's an epic piece. When I say epic, it starts in 1998, and it goes through the present day. And I needed to write that book because there were certain things I did not understand. I did not understand the Vietnam War because all I know, I had cousins that I was only 10 during that time in 63 because I was born in 1953. And they were leaving to go to war, and they come back not the same person. Mm-hmm. So I didn't understand why they had to go while we were fighting the war. I never really fully understood the whole civil rights movement. I knew there was segregation because I'm in the South. So I experienced going to an all-colored bathroom. And I just could not remember asking my mom, why can't we go there? That one's cleaner. Why would we have to go to this one?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, we can't go to that one. See what it says? White only. And I just couldn't understand why I got to be a white only. Why I got to be a colored only? We're all people. And that was an era, a period of time I just didn't understand. And then while growing up, another thing I didn't understand was the Black Panther movement. I grew up during the time when they got started. They were wonderful guys. I remember following them. They left college. They wanted to feed the kids breakfast, and they were protecting the community against police brutality. And then by the time I got to be a senior in high school, they were basically criminals, supposedly. And I'm like, no, what's going on? So I wrote a book that basically told all of that. So I learned a lot of things while I was writing that book. I learned about the Black Panther Party, and I learned about J. Edgar Hoover and how he basically targeted them. I learned basically about how 4 college students on the campus of Howard University, and this is fiction because that's what I made up, how they changed each other's lives. One became a Black Panther. One turned into an attorney who 20 years later was able to get that one, his friend, off death row because he became like Attorney Gary, or I can't think of the attorney name now that defended O.J. I can't think
Johnny
of
Cochran.
Yeah, he became like the Johnny Cochran of the day. And he had a chance to go back when his friend from college, who had become a Black Panther, who dropped out of college, was on death row. He had a chance to clear him, to prove he was set up by FBI agents. And I went through and I learned about the Vietnam War because I had to talk and interview Vietnam vets, white and black. They did not want to talk. They said that it's a war they want to forget, but they wanted me to tell it in the story, to convey their feelings. And so I did all of that. And it took me 4 years to write that book. And I told my husband I cried through a lot of writing it. And he came in there. He said, why are you even writing it if it's going to make you cry like this? And I'm like, the senselessness of the hatred, all of that, it just didn't make sense to me when we're all on this earth together. And I just couldn't understand it. And I tell people now who read the book, and it got a lot of awards, there's not another ties that bind in me because I could never be able to write another book that is emotional as that. But I got all into that book. I had to go back and remember a time when people, I had to remember the dress of that day, the food of the day, how people attitudes of the day. And it was scary. It was really, really scary. Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed writing the book because it was a lesson for me.
Yeah, yeah. And wow, you just, there's so much we can unpack with that. But the one thing I want to, share with, you and share with the listeners about that, because there are people who listen to the podcast who are outside of the United States who may not know, that particular part of history, or they just may know it at a glance. But,
right.
But one of the interesting things is there is this professor, he has a book out and he's out touring now, but he has a fascinating book, that from the things that you're talking about why you didn't understand why people were so full of hatred and why there was a whites only thing. Well, he took this book called Stamped from the Beginning, and he looks at racist thought, ideology, and ideas before the 13 colonies were even formed, and how when it got to the United States, they kept updating the narrative to justify what they were doing. And they knew the power of narrative. They even came out with scientific studies that tried to show inferiority. So this was interwoven into the consciousness of the American society through literature.
Right.
It was interwoven. And so people, even if it was debunked, people chose to believe what they wanted to believe because there was a benefit, a financial benefit for them.
Right.
So, but anyway, that is a book that just really opened my mind. And not only for what happened here in the United States, but what happened to other cultures around the world that did similar things. And how for, people of color, how the literature just criminalized color. It didn't matter if you were just as nice or whatever. The fact that you had this color, you were instantly criminalized in the consciousness of society.
Right.
And so, I'll just let that one sit for readers to think about, and, for listeners to think about. Well, Brenda, it has been a plum pleasing pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you. I
did too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and talk to the listeners. And I will put in the show notes a link to Passion Flicks, so where you can find Brenda's film. I will put in a link to her Amazon page where you can purchase her books, and I will put a link to her website if you would like to go and send her an email at some point. And so, Brenda, again, thank you so much for joining us, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Earl, for inviting me. I feel honored.
Oh, thank you. All right, readers, so stick around to listen to an episode of Lennie Gray, the audio drama podcast. Katie Books Productions presents Lennie Gray, an audio drama, written, produced, and narrated by Earl Sewell. Previously on Lennie Gray. I had to sign up for the war, Curly said, leaning over and spitting into a nearby tin cup. War? You can't go off to war. You got a baby coming. You could get killed over there. I could get killed right here, Lennie. At least I could make some money and send it back to you. I think I would feel better knowing that you got some kind of cash. I don't want you to get tricked into working for free, like me or my grandmama. Well, ain't you got money coming in from the crops you and your daddy are growing? Ain't no money in crops if people ain't buying at a fair price, Lennie. Curly, if there ain't no money in it, then why are you working so hard doing it? Curly looked at Lennie Gray as if she had just insulted him. His eyes turned into flames of rage, his chest heaved, and he told himself that she had just attacked him. It was his fragile ego and pride that took the hit of her words. He was doing the best that he could, and it wasn't enough. To add insult to injury, she implied that he was stupid for working at something that offered so little in return. Say something like that to me again, Lennie, and I swear I'll put you in your place. Curly's words were cruel and carried a promise that would come to pass if she ever made him feel low again. But Lennie Gray didn't understand why her question made him turn against her. She only wanted to help to find a solution to their problems. But his pride was too delicate, and his ears were too clogged to hear and understand her question. The following morning, Ida hitched their mule to a wagon, and she and Lennie Gray boarded it and rode towards church. The ride was bumpy and uncomfortable for Lennie Gray, but she was grateful that she didn't have to walk. As they made their way along the dusty and lumpy road, they came across men on a chain gang. They were shackled and had on black and white prison suits. Some had on hats and others did not. They all had shovels and were digging what appeared to be graves. Lennie Gray tuned into their sorrowful but beautiful voices singing. A man would sing a solo verse, and the remaining men would repeat his words in harmony. All of this was done while men with rifles and pistols observed them closely in case any of them attempted to escape.
Why don't you go down, oh, don't you ride, no, whoa, go down, old Hannah.
Well,
Don't you ride no more.
don't you ride no more.
Why don't you go down, old Don't you ride?
I hate seeing them like that, Lennie Gray muttered to Ida once they moved past.
Ain't much we can do about it except pray. All we can do is make sure we don't do nothing to get us in trouble.
I heard they make up charges on folks, Lennie Gray said, hoping Ida would loosen up. Over the several months that have come to pass, she had learned that Ida, like Curly, was emotionally disturbed and was very mean at times. Ida had emotional outbursts over the smallest things, like when she asked on behalf of Tangi May for some food and a little credit. She went into a fit of rage and told Tangi May not to bring her dark-skinned behind back to her house, although Tangi wasn't all that dark, but she wasn't light enough for Ida's liking.
You heard right, but this family catches a break because the sheriff is Tom's half-brother.
I've been meaning to ask exactly how y'all is related to the Quinnies. Lennie Gray placed her hand on her stomach as the baby began to kick. Ida gave the mule a command to slow down as they approached the church.
Ask Tom, he'll tell you,
Ida said.
However, it ain't all that hard to figure out. Tom is half white. His daddy is a Quinny.
Oh, okay, I see. Ida, do you believe in God?
Some days I do and some I don't. Most of the time I don't, but I still come to church to see if my mind could be tilted in a God-like direction,
Ida said. How come you don't believe fully?
Because I don't understand why God let so many evil things happen.
Bible say we got to live by faith and not by sight, answered Lennie Gray.
Well, that may be true, but faith and reality don't always see eye to eye. Let me put it to you like this here. You can have all the faith in the world, but if reality ain't matching your faith, well, then you got problems.
Ida paused for a long moment to allow the meaning of what she'd just said to settle between them. Then she thought about her grandmother and the reality she had to live through.
My grandmama was born a slave in 1834. She told me that same year old Master's son was born, and she was to be a gift to the boy when he turned 16 years old. Well, the way she tell it, old Master's son was mean-spirited, and my grandmama didn't want to be his bedwoman. She was sweet on this other slave boy, so she gave herself to him. By the time old Master found out about it, she was pregnant with my mother. The evilness in old Master caused him to beat my grandmama so badly that she lost both of her breasts.
Lennie Gray gasped.
It's an ugly thing, I know, but it's the truth. I don't see how I'm supposed to be praying to a God when he let stuff like that happen, all because she wants to have a say-so and who she mixed pleasures with. Anyway, on the day my mama was born in 1849, old Mazza took her and sold her. He was standing in the room when the baby come out. He didn't even give her a chance to hold my mother. Ida paused. I don't understand what kind of God allowed a baby to come into the world and not even get a chance to look at its own mother. When slavery come to an end in 1865, my grandmama set out to find my mother. Took her 9 years. Tom's mother, Mary, helped out. My mother and Mary were friends, you see. Mary told me about my mother, rest her sweet soul.
How long has it been since you lost your mother? Lennie Gray asked.
She died when I wasn't nothing but a year old. Cholera took her. I don't understand why God did such a thing. Seemed to me like the evil is the one with all the power. But part of me keep looking for a sign of God. But as far as I can tell, he ain't got no plans of showing up.
Hi, this is Earl Sewell, narrator, producer, and creator of the audio drama Lennie Gray. If you like listening to the show and you like what is being produced, please take a moment to leave us a review and a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Your reviews and your ratings help others to find the show. Also, you can help me spread the word about the show by sharing a link to it on your social media platforms and sharing it with your friends. If you want to know more about the show and how it's produced, you can follow it on Facebook at facebook.com/Lennie Gray and audio drama. That's LENNIEGRAY. Until next time, happy listening.